Hey everyone, it's Paige. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are talking about Goosebumps. I'm so excited for this video, like really excited. If any of you grew up reading Goosebumps, if you still rewatch the show like I do sometimes as an adult, then I think you'll like this video. So the other day, my friend Kaylin and I were talking about horror in general, like the genre. Obviously we've been talking about that a lot since it is spooky season and I've been reading a lot of horror and so has she. But we kind of got into the conversation of like what was our first horror experience. And of course Goosebumps was brought up, and the next thing you know we were kind of like, you know what would be kind of fun? To reread Goosebumps now. So in this video I'm going to be rereading my favorite Goosebumps books for the first time in about 15 years. These books obviously hold a very special place in my heart, as does the TV show, because I remember vividly going to Barnes & Noble with my dad, who would get me like a Goosebumps book every time we went. So I had more than this. I'm not sure where they went, but these are like the ones that I kept. I also spent many a night watching Goosebumps. I used to collect the Goosebumps DVDs. Fun fact, my favorite Goosebumps episode of the TV show is actually The Ghost Next Door, which I never read the book version of. Moral of the story is, Goosebumps did shape me pretty strongly as a child. My goal is to read probably at least 2 of these by the time I talk to Kaylin tomorrow. I think I'm going to focus on reading Ghost Beach. This was like my favorite book as a kid. I do remember that. I definitely want to get to The Curse of Camp Cold Lake because I do remember liking this, but it's interesting because I don't remember why, but I am very excited. Before I get started reading, if you have a favorite Goosebumps book or a favorite Goosebumps TV episode, drop it below and let me know. Also, just to give a quick shout out to my awesome cousin Drew, he got me these bookmarks. They're like little claws. I think the Goosebumps books are too small and obviously paperback, so they work but not as well as they can in a different book, but still very cool. So thank you, Drew. Okay, like I said, we're starting with Ghost Beach. This is a very well-loved book. I used to have a lovebird called Peaches, and I let that bird kind of do whatever it wanted, so it chewed up some of my childhood things, like this book, for example. This specific book came out in 1994. It's essentially about this boy who hears legends about this ghost that haunts a cave by the beach, and he thinks it's all just bogus, but it might not be. I mean, it's a Goosebumps novel, so of course it's not. I am currently on chapter 4, and I don't know if I'll find any more annotations from, you know, past page, little page, but for some reason these 2 words are underlined. What and small. And I don't know if I did this by accident, although it seems very purposeful. I don't know. What a mystery. So something that I find interesting as an adult reading Goosebumps, and I guess specifically something I find funny, is how unspecific it is. I feel like I transitioned straight from Goosebumps into Supernatural, the TV show. I started reading actual horror, I started reading creepypastas, and as an adult who reads a lot of supernatural horror, nothing is really unspecific anymore. You start to learn the types of ghosts, the types of entities, the types of demons and monsters, and these kids just found like a skeleton of a dog in the woods, right? And immediately my adult brain you know, who that's into kind of the occult jumps to, oh my gosh, maybe it's like a Wendigo or like a demon, you know? But to the kids, it's like, oh, maybe it's a ghost. And like, I caught myself like thinking,
what do you mean it's a ghost? A ghost isn't corporeal. It's impossible.
Like that's not the point, Paige. It's just funny how like experience and exposure to a certain type of genre changes how you read something, you know what I mean? So that is my first Goosebumps book done. Well, first of all, it has the classic Goosebumps situational irony that you love about Goosebumps. Did it scare me probably like it did when I was a kid? No. Like, I'm not sitting here like scared, but I am like unsettled. And maybe that's mostly like remembered fear from being a child and reading this, but I can definitely tell where my tastes in horror stemmed from. So I do know, like I told you, that this was one of my favorite Goosebumps books. I probably read this a million times. I couldn't quite remember the entirety of the ending though, so I was kind of feeling that suspense of figuring it out. I have always loved ghost stories. I didn't not enjoy the Goosebumps TV episodes and books that were more so like goofy or just like weird or sci-fi, but they weren't my favorite. Like, my favorites were always having to do with ghosts. So I think as a kid, when I went shopping for Goosebumps books, I wanted the books that had the scariest art on the cover. That was what I was seeking out as a child. What about you guys? Like, when you were reading Goosebumps, when you were watching Goosebumps, did you more so like the sci-fi episodes that were kind of like weird but not super scary, or were you into the scariest that you could get in Goosebumps? Do you know what I mean? Anywhoosies, I'm gonna start to read this one. So this is The Curse of Camp Cold Lake. This book came out in 1997. This follows Sarah, who has been sent to camp and she hates it there. She doesn't get along with her bunkmates, so she decides to fake her own death, I guess, and get sympathy from them. My memory for this one is even more vague than my memory of Ghost Beach. Also, as you know, these books are published by Scholastic, and it just like struck me now that I probably got one or two of these at those like Scholastic book fairs that they used to have at school. I think the only type of book, the only type of story I was interested in as a kid were scary books. Her name is actually Sarah Maas. Did R.L. Stine just predict the future of the book industry? Imagine if R.L. Stine like wrote sequels to like his Goosebump books. Like imagine these characters in adulthood like reflecting on what happened and then having to like deal with the consequences or like the monster in their story returning. So right now the camp counselors are explaining like the water rules, since this is like a water sport camp. And Sarah, our protagonist, is like, she's talking to us like we're 5 years old. Meanwhile, this whole time, I'm like, this is such a good idea. You should definitely practice water safety. No, no, no. You can't do that. I've waited so long with a ton of N's. Dun dun dun. We are done. Well, that concludes my personal reading of Goosebumps. It was a lot of fun to return to these books and feel that nostalgia and also sort of analyze my own behaviors, the way that I grew up, what I now am fearful of, what I now prioritize. Regardless, before I end the video, I wanted to bring in my friend Kaylin, who also read a bunch of Goosebumps books with me, and I figured we could chat a little bit and get her side of things and see how she felt about the reread. Let's go and give her a call.
I'm not an English teacher at all.
We're like, what is literature?
Exactly. These are my off hours. So I read Night of the Living Dead. No, Night of the Living Dummy, something like that. Ghost Beach, just like you, so we have that in common. Stay Out of the Basement, Say Cheese and Die, and Welcome to Dead House, which was a dud.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I hated that book.
What is the plot of that book?
It's like these kids move into this new home, and like in this home they're experiencing like souls essentially, and yeah, like it's there to basically take them, like they need more dead in their community. It was too all over the place. I didn't like it, and I was like, I just want this to end because it's ruining my experience. Like I either gave it a 1 or a 2 star because I could see how it might be like spooky for like a kid maybe, but it just wasn't what I liked.
Like even knowing the target audience for these books, I think it's fair that we can evaluate them still based off of how much they actually make sense. Like like even as a kid, like I'm sure we didn't love all Goosebumps books or episodes. Like some of them just kind of weren't as good as other ones. Like,
well, right. And if you think about it, like how many stories does this man have in him before like some of them are gonna get stale?
How many books did he write for the Goosebumps series?
It's so many. Like it's kind of wild.
It is wild because they're separate books, but I guess if you really think about it, they're more like short stories.
They're I mean, so all of them were like around 140-ish pages. And it was like 3 to 4 hours depending on the length of like the audiobook. So I would say they're like novellas.
I'm not used to actually finishing books anymore, so anytime I finish one, I think, wow, that was so short. So no, yeah, they're definitely formulaic. The one thing that I kept commenting on as I was recording reading was that there is always a plot twist. Like there's never not a plot twist, and like you can actually write a scary story without a plot twist. It is actually a thing that can be done.
Yeah, I know.
So it's definitely like his style.
Was he like the originator of this? I love a good plot twist, don't get me wrong. But I just don't love when I can figure it out like pretty right away.
Well, yeah, like if I know that your writing style is that you're going to give me a plot twist, then I'm obviously like the whole time I'm gonna be like, well, this is a red herring.
Yep.
Like obviously something crazy is gonna, or like, you know, whatever is gonna happen. Like I just finished this one, right?
The one that doesn't exist on the screen. Here we go.
And the plot twist, actually the plot of this one isn't superb. I'm not gonna lie. Like I'm not sure why I liked it so much as a kid. I think maybe it's possible that I actually liked this one more, but I wasn't I wasn't able to read all three. But the plot twist that is the end of that book is like so bad. Like there's no lead up to the plot twist, and just happens. And there's so much stuff going on.
But when you think about like how many books there are, like you're not going to like every single one of them. Like you're bound to dislike something along the way. And I think, at least for me, for reading 5 of them, I would say 3 of them I really, really enjoyed. And I was like, yeah, they definitely stand up to like what I remember Goosebumps being, and the reason why I like thrillers and mysteries so much now. I really only disliked the one. So I feel like that's pretty good odds for just kind of randomly picking. Like that's decent.
Yeah.
And yours was like 50-50 because you still liked Ghost Beach a lot, right?
Yeah, I liked Ghost Beach a lot. It was It was pretty similar to what I remembered it. I think that was the one I definitely read the most as a kid. And speaking of like just things that you liked as a kid, like your favorite was Night of Living Dummy, right?
Yeah.
As you were rereading that, did you catch anything in there that you thought like, oh, so this is why I like this, or this is why I go for this trope, or like, you know what I mean?
Not necessarily like this is why I like this, but definitely being like, now I know why I'm terrified of like things being in the corner of my room at night, like especially humanoid shapes, or like my family has this stupid doll that we play tag with, and like it, yeah. So like sometimes we'll go into one another's houses if we have the key to someone's house, and we'll leave the doll in like a spot, and like it terrifies me all the time, even though I take part in this thing. And now I'm like, oh yeah, that's why. Because I read this book at like 8 years old and it traumatized me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, what about you?
Well, I discovered that, in Ghost Beach, I knew it was a ghost that was going to be the thing, like the creature. And I obviously really like supernatural horror now. I've always liked ghosts. But then when I was reading Camp Cold Lake, I realized that the like antagonist in that book is also a ghost.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, obviously I had a type when I was a kid. Like my type was ghosts. And I even remember like as a kid, around the same time that I was probably reading Goosebumps, like I would ask my dad, like every time we were in the car, we were doing something, like I would be like, tell me a scary story. And like anytime he would try to tell me, like, because he would have to make them up on the spot. My dad probably came up with like 100 scary stories. But anytime he would tell me like a monster scary story, I'd be like, Dad, I want a ghost story. Like,
There's something about ghost stories. Like they're like the most traditional scary story there is, and it terrifies everyone. I think because of the fact that like people like have experiences with like ghostly things, whereas like who really has experiences with like monsters that they can
yeah,
like tell, you know what I mean?
yeah,
So with a ghost story, like you can actually imagine it happening, like
yeah.
people have experienced like weird things happen to them, and so I think it's identifiable to a lot of people and they can
Mm-hmm.
relate.
Yeah.
So I don't blame you. I love ghost stories. They're the best.
Yeah, and I guess I always have. So it was just ironic though, because I thought with Curse of Camp Cold Lake that it might have been maybe like a zombie or like a water, like kind of whatever or something, and then come to find out it's still a ghost, and I was like, well,
Well, look at the book. Doesn't the book kind of like
this is the cover.
it
And
looks kind of like it would be a zombie, let's be
yeah,
honest.
it looks like a zombie. It's in the water, so I was like, maybe it's like because I couldn't remember the plot, and like I was like, maybe
Mhm.
it's like a swamp creature, lake creature, like
Yeah.
zombie or whatever. So then I was, but then oh well, maybe I'm an idiot though, because it says last one in is a rotten ghost. So so you know what? Disregard that, And then the only two Goosebumps books I have that are in perfect condition, like I don't even know if I read them, were monster books.
Oh wait, that one with the cabinet. What is that called?
It came from beneath the sink.
That seems very familiar to me.
Did you find anything interesting about the writing?
I don't know about you. When I think back on, oh my gosh, what is it called? The series of unfortunate events. You know
Oh
what I'm
yeah.
talking about? Like when I read those again as an adult, I was like, wow, this is like way too young. Like
Hmm.
it was super like down to the vocabulary explanations within the text.
Yeah.
um I was pleasantly surprised that I didn't feel like it was like kind of like not pandering so much, but like it wasn't like really catering to like super young audiences, so I feel
Mhm.
like I was an educated reader at a young age. Like obviously
Hey.
it's shorter, obviously like it's simple structure,
Mhm.
but I felt like as an adult like I could enjoy it
Yeah.
versus like, Lemony Snicket. That's it. Lemony Snicket.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the same. Like I didn't feel completely like, oh my gosh, this is
Yeah.
so young.
The only thing I did notice is anytime there's like an exclamation, and maybe it's like different though because you listen to it and it sounded more natural, like the way R.L. Stine writes dialogue is to the way it would sound. So you know how like when you're in school or even when you're writing in your pastimes, like you're mostly discouraged from, you know, if somebody's yelling no, you're discouraged from writing no.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
He does that?
He does that every
Lord.
single time.
This is literature. This is your job.
Yeah, this is my job.
Relevant to the teenage folk.
Right. I was evaluating Lexile levels in Goosebumps. So.
Do they still apply to our teenage population today? Yes.
Exactly. Research. Field research.
Yep.
This is so awkward. I feel like I have like a live audience. Hello. Okay. Well, I hope you liked this video. If you did like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. You can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Goodreads, or you can join my Discord channel called Paiging Through Club, where we read a book monthly. I hope you have a great Halloween, doing awesome spooky things, and I will see you back here next week. Bye!
Toodles!